Training.com, CWI prep course. Come visit us at our website at train-eng.com, pronounced training. This is our CWI prep course. This is as you go through some of these videos, these will be some snippets or samples out of our online training course. If you like what you see here in the sample section, come and visit us and take the course. Unlike a lot of other programs, we've got it set up so that you can do it a la carte. If you only need, we've got different parts of the CWI course broken out. So if you don't need to sit through and take safe practices for welding inspectors, or you have some strengths that you know of and you want to streamline the process and only hit the sections where you don't really have a strong background or a great deal of proficiency, our program is set up so you can take some of these parts of the CWI online course a la carte. Pick and choose, put together what you want. Leave the rest, like a Chinese food buffet. CWI prep course, Weld Inspection and Certification, Module 5, Part 9. Learning objectives. In this module, we're going to cover Welder Qualification, Welder Qualification text requirements, and essential variables for Welder Qualification.
Welder Qualification. The primary purpose for performance qualification, Welder Qualification, is to verify the ability of an individual to execute a qualified welding procedure specification to produce a sound weld. Welders can be qualified by visual inspection and destructive testing or radiographic inspection. Welders qualify to specific welding processes, not welding procedures. All variables are essential. Machine welding is considered a different welding process. So if you notice that where it says welders qualify to specific welding processes, not welding procedures, that's where we get into keeping the two sides of the wall separate. You've got WPS's, welding procedure specifications, on one side of the wall, and then you've got welder qualification on the other side of the wall. So you need to keep this in mind when you're qualifying welders and procedures. There's two completely separate sides of the wall that these guys live on. Welder performance qualification. A test administered to a welder to determine the welder's capacity to perform a specific welding application. Welder certification is based on specially designed tests to determine a welder's skill and ability to deposit sound weld metal. It involves limited tests such as visual inspection, radiographic, ultrasonic, mag particle, dye penetrant testing, followed by appropriate mechanical tests such as transverse bend test, macro examination, macro test, weld fracture test, nick break test, fillet break test, corrosion resistant test, and ferrite number test. And it just depends on what your requirements are and what you're qualifying the welder to do. Not every welder needs all of these tests every time. Certain military applications, Navy nuclear or whatever, might be more stringent than something that's gonna welding handrails on a specific platform or something to that effect, depending on what your code requirements are, your customer requirements and specifications. But it could involve just VT radiography, mechanical tests. Just depends on what needs to be done to satisfy the specification and codes that you're working to. We're going to talk about the wall between procedures and personnel. Don't confuse the two sides of the wall. This is a Walt Spurko thing. Walt Spurko is the president of ASME Section 9 and really intelligent individual in regards to welding codes. But this is how he describes it. There's a wall there. Personnel, the WPQ, is on one side of the wall, and then procedures, WPS and PQRs, on the other. So you got to be careful and not get these things mixed up. A PQR has almost nothing to do with a WPQ, the Welder Performance Qualification Record, or a WPS. So you need to realize there's two separate sides to this welding universe, and don't cross-pollinate them or don't cross the streams. It's bad. So just make sure that you keep the procedures on one side, and when you're talking about procedures, you talk about procedures. And when you're dealing with personnel, you talk about personnel, and you just deal with personnel on that side. So the wall. Don't confuse the two sides of the wall. Welder Qualification. The range of approval is not as restrictive for welder qualification as it is for procedure testing. Welder qualification has fewer essential variables than procedure qualification testing. One welder performance qualification can cover many WPSs. You're asking, how can this be? Shouldn't a welder have to qualify for each WPS? No, he does not. As long as he meets a certain number of essential variables, he's good to go on that. If I have WPS number 1, which is a WPS using gas tungsten arc welding with, let's call it carbon steel and 95% argon, 5% helium. WPS number 2 has stainless steel, let's call it ER309L with 100% argon. And then WPS number 3 has, let's call it another carbon steel with, I'm going to pick something strange here, argon with 10% helium. Under the rules for WPSs, every time I change the percentage of the shielding gas, I have to change the WPS. It's essential variable change. I have to change it. So when I went from WPS 1 to WPS 2 and I went from carbon steel to stainless steel, that's a change. That's a new WPS. And the same from going from WPS number 1 to WPS number 3. I changed my shielding gas. I've got to change everything. Well, the welder, he's just got to qualify on F6. So F6 is filler metal. And the filler metal is it's the form that the filler metal comes in. So whether it's carbon steel, stainless steel, they all fit under the F6 category. So he's qualified. Shielding gas, the welder doesn't have to, he can weld with any shielding gas with the gas tungsten arc welding process. Whatever the shielding gas is, he can use it. Every time you change a composition, you don't have to requalify your welder. Whereas with a WPS, every time you change it, you have to requalify a welder. So there's only a half a dozen or so essential variables for the welder to qualify to, but the WPSs have 20 or 30 that you really need to address, depending on which procedure, which process you're using, which welding process you're using. So you can have multiple WPSs that a welder can use, and he doesn't have to requalify for every WPS out there. He just needs to requalify for the ones where he doesn't have all the essential variables covered. Usually it's thickness, filler metal, and position are the three hang-ups where and backing. Can he weld open root or not open root? But there's 3 or 4 of them, and generally if you address those 3, 4, 5, 6 welder qualification essential variables, you're covered. And that's how a welder can weld with multiple WPSs. Here's a welder performance qualification record from Fred's Welding. You can see that it's a pretty trimmed down version of some of the other documentation we've used. There's only a half a dozen, like we said, essential variables that you need to address. And there's a section down there where you write down the results and, you know, did he pass the bend tests, and maybe you had a macro etch or something else. But you write that in there, and then there's also, what's the organization, Fred's Welding, and then the welding engineer and the date. Or doesn't have to be a welding engineer. Who's the responsible party? Fred's just had a welding engineer, so that's why they've got that written in that spot on the form. But you can see this is the documentation used to keep track of welder qualification. So once you do this, you put it in the welder's file, maybe make a PDF file and put it on the internet within your company, so if other people need to access that information, they can access the PDF without rummaging through your file system. But this is one of the components that makes a good welding program work, is welder qualification and documentation of what the guy is qualified to do. This is the test requirements from ASME Section 9. You can see for welder qualification, so let's say we're going to use a welder qualification coupon that's 3/4 of an inch thick and over. So yep, we're going to require visual examination of the surface of the weld, and then it's going to tell us we need to do 2 side bend tests. That's what we need to do. So the visual examination and acceptance criteria: weld should show complete penetration and fusion. The bend test acceptance criteria: no open discontinuities in the weld, or HAZ greater than 1/8 of an inch. So all codes have a specific table like this that tells you how many face bends, side bends, root bends you've got to do for the various thicknesses. It just varies from code to code, but each code has something like this that tells you the welder qualification test requirement. Welder qualification test requirements. Here you can see the different acceptance criteria. So if you're going to qualify your welders to a certain code, I don't know which one this is from, but you can see the radiographic acceptance criteria. Cracks, incomplete fusion, or incomplete penetration are cause for rejection. As elongated slag, it gives you the lengths. Rounded indications. So it lines you out pretty well as far as what your acceptance criteria are for radiographic acceptance of a welder qualification test. And this varies from code to code. On this slide, you can see we've got a radiograph. Somebody has done a welder qualification, and we've got the radiography that they're going to use to qualify the welder. So you can see they've gone through and outlined where we've got clustered porosity and slag inclusions, weld spatter, incomplete fusion. So I don't know what the acceptance criteria is, but I'm thinking this guy did not pass. So this gives you an idea of what a radiograph looks like for welder qualification testing. They just shoot an x-ray, and then the appropriate personnel disposition the x-ray and give you a thumbs up or thumbs down. And if it's a thumbs up, then the guy's qualified. If not, he needs further training, and you give him a requalification test if you decide to keep him. Welder qualification. Here's the essential variables for welder qualification. And you can see there's only, one's for gas metal arc welding and one's for gas tungsten arc welding. There's only half a dozen welder qualification essential variables. Remember when we were talking about essential variables for procedure qualifications for WPSs? Remember how big that laundry list of essential variables were? For welder qualification, it's just half a dozen. You've got, is the guy using backing, base metals, pipe diameter, filler materials, what positions he using, is he going up and down, in his positions, what's his vertical mode of travel. Is he going vertical up or vertical down? Do we have inert backing when we're welding, backing gas, and the polarity if we're on gas tungsten. And it's pretty similar for the one on the right, which is gas metal arc welding. You know, transfer mode, inert backing, position, if we're going up or down in the vertical position, filler metals, what's the F number, etc. You know, P numbers for material, base materials, etc. So welder qualification essential variables are it's a way smaller list than when you're qualifying a procedure. And this gives you a lot more leeway to use welders on different welding procedures. Like we said, welders don't qualify to a specific procedure, they qualify to a process. Filler metal F numbers are an essential variable for procedure qualification as well as for personnel qualification. So an F number is based on the usability characteristics, i.e. the welder's ability to make satisfactory welds with a given filler material. So you can see like F1 materials are all flat because we've got a 2 in there. Remember when we went over filler materials and shielded metal arc welding, we talked about that 20, 24, and 27 on that F1. That 2 indicates that this is used in the flat position. So if you qualify a welder with a filler material that is flat only, you're not going to let him weld in all positions with that qualification. It doesn't make sense. But then if we go down to F4, which is, you know, the ones with 15, 16, and 18 in them, so those ones are low hydrogen materials, and they're a little more difficult to weld with. Plus, they're all position. So for a lot of codes, if you qualify using the F4 material, you also get to use the F3, F2, F1. But it doesn't go the other way. You don't get to qualify with F1 and get F2, F3, F4. And then there's kind of a break there. And then we go to F5, which is austenitic stainless steels and duplex stainless steels. They're kind of their own little ecosystem there. And then F6 is materials that are used for TIG welding or gas metal arc welding, gas tungsten arc welding or gas metal arc welding. So these are just bare rods. So if you qualify with one of them, you get all of them. If it's an F6 material, it's process based. They figure that if you can weld with carbon steel and gas metal arc welding, that you can also weld with a bare metal rod using austenitic stainless steel or a duplex stainless steel. It's process based. So if you qualify with one F6, you get the whole family of F6s. And it depends on which codes you're working to. And then you can see we've got things like F4X, which is nickel alloys, and F5X, which is titanium alloys. So if you qualify with those, you're just living within that family group. The 4Xs or the 5Xs. You don't get to weld with the carbon steels, which are the F4, F3, F2, and F1. But an F number is a filler metal number. So depends on which code you're working with, on how they're going to allow you to use these and how it plays into it being an essential variable. But there are F numbers. Be cognizant of that. Welder performance qualification. Required destructive or non-destructive tests. So your code is going to specify what you need to do to qualify the welder. Sometimes it's 2 or 3 destructive tests. We cut out some samples and we bend them, or we do a tensile test, or just depending on what you got going on. Generally, it's a bend test. Non-destructive tests. Sometimes some codes call out you need to dye penetrant or X-ray, or you can do ultrasound. Just depends on what you're going to do. Visual inspection. You're going to have to make sure the weld looks good. Sometimes it's RT or ultrasonic testing, mag particle or liquid dye penetrant. Can be followed by mechanical tests such as transverse bend test, macro examination, macro test, weld fracture test, nick break test, fillet break test, corrosion resistant test, and ferrite number test. Just depends on what they want done. Your code and your customer requirements are going to spell out the regimen of testing that's required for welder performance qualification. So you need to read the documents and make sure you know what needs to be done and go from there. Welder performance qualification. Once a welder passes a test or a series of tests, their employer or third party will certify the ability to pass the test and the limitations or the extent they are qualified to weld. As a written document, the Welder Qualification Test Record, or WPQR, this document is valid for a limited period, usually 2 years, after which the welder must be retested. Some qualifications are only valid for a single project, while others are unlimited as long as welders do not go beyond a specific length of time without performing that specific type of welding. This period is often 6 months. Welder performance qualification. The performance qualification tests are intended to determine the ability of welders to make sound welds. The welder is qualified by radiography of a test coupon, radiography of an initial production weld, or bend test taken from a test coupon. You can see in the corner, I snagged this one out of a Navy specification, S9074AQ Gib -010-248, pretty similar to ASME Section 9 and D11. I mean, there's some minor tweaks, but it shows you what the weld groove needs to look like, and then it also shows you, okay, do a face bend on this one, a root bend on this one, and then discard it. But it shows you the size of the test coupon and the groove. So you can do these with radiography, or you can do the radiography of an initial production weld. But there's a lot of different ways, and it depends on what you're welding on as far as materials and material product form. This list is a general list of essential variables for welder qualification. You've got the welding process, something like shielded metal arc, gas metal arc, submerged arc, gas tungsten arc welding. Base metal composition group, okay, are we welding aluminum, copper, tungsten, titanium? There's base metal composition groups. Base metal thickness, are we welding sheet metal or are we welding something really thick, 4 inches thick? Welding position, is it all flat? Is it overhead? Is it horizontal? Position. Base metal form, is it sheet, tube? What are we welding? Type of weld groove, is it groove or fillet? Is it with or without backing? Are we doing an open root weld or are we using a backing strip? And then other welding conditions can also be lumped in here depending on the code or the customer requirements.
Summary. In this module, we covered welder qualification, welder qualification test requirements, and essential variables for welder qualification. Our CWI Online Part A video course, $149. It's self-study CWI exam. Everything's an online video course. We've got one section where it's questions, and more questions. We've got a whole number of CWI self-study question bank, $40. Come on in, take it, take a look, see. If you just need questions, if you sat through another course and you just want to keep hitting the material, check out our question bank, $40.